financial, availability of funds. It could be because of your own requirement. It could be because of, as I said, because of you may be expanding, you may be scaling up your operations, you may be putting up a new plant, new factory, or needing to make more capital investment, and that is how you need to raise more resources, and that is how you restructure your capital and debt. But most of the time, the restructuring is, restructuring happens because of the compulsions of the others when they ask you to restructure. Like banks and financial institutions, if your account is becoming stressed, and some accounts may have become non-performing, so naturally, in order to regularize the operations, there is a need to restructure your financial resources, bring in more capital. Like there is a scheme which Government of India has recently introduced, which is called subordinated debt scheme. I think that is for the purpose of restructuring your financial system, financial operations, by raising funds under that scheme. Probably the methodology is that the banks and financial institutions will give personal loans to the directors and partners, so that these directors and partners can make this investment, this funding, these loans, which they can raise personally, they should invest it in the company itself as additional capital. So what is the purpose? I mean, it's basically to jack up the existing capital so that your capital can be strengthened and your loan, and from that maybe you can repay some of the outstanding dues, reducing your liabilities, and bringing down the debt equity ratio, and that is how you can restructure your financial operations and become a healthy unit. So that could be part of that. Even in case of one-time settlements also, we have seen in past that restructuring is normally advised by the financing institutions, that you will bring in this much of more capital so that we can reduce your total amount of liability or outstanding, and fix your repayment schedule in such a manner that you are able to repay by bringing in more equity, by not claiming interest on that. These are all part of the restructuring which is done. So I will not go into much detail. I think I have introduced the subject quite in detail. I will now invite my expert speakers. Coming to Tripti ji first. I think the introduction has already been given. She is a star in women entrepreneurship development in the country. I am expecting that the Womenovator, the initiative which she has started, will become a big campaign across the country and will be known over a period of another 3 to 5 years like an international event. That is what, in fact, I perceive it to be. And you never know, she becomes, a star in over a period of time. So over to you, Tripti ji. The issue is known to you, so please come in.
Thank you so much, Kumar sir. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure working all these while from my experience from National Small Industry Corporation to working on personal level. With this, I think the topic is very relevant and interesting, and I will try to talk more on the basis of example which you can correlate to. As a layman, I am assuming that all the audience here is MSMEs and is not an expert in finance. So, Mr. Kumar has already explained what it means to do your financial planning and financial restructuring. I will come up with a basic, let's just, think about, we plan our routes every day, right? We may be going every day from a single route and may replan to adopt. And for that, we may go by a Google map. We may try to fit in different assumptions, even when we are using Google Map. And I think that's what we are trying to talk about right now, is how do we be more effective, more profitable, how our decision making is much better. And as the changes in the business environment, how we can overcome the losses if we are undergoing, if there is any change in management because of like turnover, takeovers, mergers, how to deal with it, if there is increase or decrease in the cost of raw material, or there is a change in fixed cost over time, how that can help us. Um, Instead, although like Mr. Kumar said that restructuring is not something which we adopt easily. It's some very specific to scenarios, and but very effective option if you want to revive your company. And specifically, it's a last ditch effort if it is because it may cause loss of jobs for many of your employees. So with this, I will quickly discuss with you how can business restructuring can help you. I think business restructuring one can help you saving cost. You may have to be more particular about the resources and raw materials. You will have to, work on your liquidity in business, about maintaining your cash flows. But how? Let me give you a very basic example. You all know today Apple. Today Apple is known as a giant in electronics, phones, iPads, and all. But do you know when the CEO actually took over, it was a company which was diversified. It was making shoes. It was making all kind of things you can imagine. So the new CEO, the first step he did was restructuring. What he did was, and the company was in major losses, was not able to sustain. So what they did, as you know today, that Apple is all about Apple TV, Apple phone, Apple iPad. Diversification was there. It was completely 90% of the diversifications was stopped. It was then concentrated on doing what we are best at. Whatever they were best at, they identified those service line. They started working on only those service line, and they started revamping the complete. Today, if you go to an Apple store, the complete Apple store, the way it looks, what experience it brings, is what they focused on. This complete structuring was actually, was the main idea to bring it back. I'll give you a second. Instead, I'll give you another example. Like in our case, we are service industry, and when we are starting different departments, like we have valuation, we have tax department, and all. Till the time your valuation, your company departments are doing good, you're not concerned about what's going wrong or what's inside. What happens is that we normally see, or I have been seeing that, okay, like for example, one of our major client brings 50% of the revenue. I'm not worrying or concerned about what happens during COVID. Till the time that 50% major client is taking care of the complete department. And that's what maybe while restructuring, we have to get into more and more detail, is whether my 50% has to be retained or my 100% clients have to be retained to survive during these COVID. Another example, if for example, we're talking about a client which has one client, 99% revenue comes from one client. And when that's the case, we should be mindful that you need to worry about, and during these difficult times, we have to be very, very focused. We need to work on diversification of our client, of our product line, which will help us to survive during this COVID. And similarly, I'll also talk about one of the top investment firm, if you all are aware about. I will skip the name, but again, there was a major dispute between the two partners, and individually those two partners individually were the world-class advisors, and the firm could not go with any one of them. So they restructured to bring the best in both the partners. So restructuring may be required because there's a dispute between the management. You need to work on your decision-making powers. there is a possibility that your product line, your costing, your department wise costing, detailing, what is more important is instead of shutting down the complete structure or complete company, what you need to do to survive through these difficult times. So it is important that you may classify, you may have to go into detail to find out the possible solutions and to survive. And how do you do that? You need to find out your profits. You need to find out which particular, which particular part of your business is not bringing or is bringing lesser profit. Then it's very important to restructure the ones instead of shutting down the company. We say that sometimes we can't see all these things coming, and that's what it is. Somewhere at the back of our mind, the increasing risk, increasing debts, lesser profit, higher cost, increase in raw material charges, increase in your product, maybe a little sign for you to understand that it's time for you to react to those causes. And so you may have to, work on, you may have to, your current business, how it is performed and which activity is taking up most of your fund has to be checked. And there is no doubt about it. Sometimes we feel we're just surviving through, and all of a sudden, no, we need to work on it like we are doing in COVID. We are taking precautions. We are taking, we are drinking amla and different things, just to be safe. So the best approaches is in restructuring is for saving the cost of the business, is to streamline all business activities and allow the business simplifications. So as you go forward, you need to work on simplification of your business. Then how your resources and raw material, that is a very important aspect. To perform financial restructuring, the management have to understand the working of the company. There's no way out from this. You have to go in each and every activity which is performed in the company. Like I said, Apple CEO actually went in detailing even how the store needs to look like, how the experience of customer has to be, what are the products which will survive. Management has to go into detailing. And after this, the management can decide what are the resources which are getting wasted during these business activities and how to streamline them. Now, coming on the third important part is the liquidity in big business. Increasing liquidity is very important and very important for business to have that liquidity. So our business will be prepared for any unforeseen circumstances. It is important that we are ready for those circumstances. And for that reason, business during COVID, we all know, are facing cash crunch as not all people are able to work. So we need to figure out, we need to work, get into detail, because employee cost or raw material cost, depending on the nature of your business, will play a very important role. So to increase the liquidity of the company, it will help in such a situation to, people who are not working, the raw materials, which the prices you can renegotiate, look at your fixed costs, which can be specifically infrastructure cost. During these COVID time, people are used to working from home. And if you can save on your infrastructure cost, if you are in service line, if you're in manufacturing and you're seeing less people, obviously manufacturing cannot be dealt in the same way, but definitely you need to figure out. We have seen during these last 6 months that during this COVID, it was easier for us to find out who's efficient, who's non-efficient. You don't have to sit on the head anymore. It's on the basis of the kind of work, the kind of response the partner is getting, how frequently, and that's how you have to deal with during these circumstances. And the most important thing is maintaining the cash flow. So cash coming into business or going out is actually cash flow. I know all of you know about it, but it is of paramount significance to maintain a proper amount of cash flow in your business. If there is a greater cash coming in, then also what is it used on? Then business is not suitably utilizing the resources. That means getting extra cash, not using it properly is also a concern. And if your outflow is greater than the inflow, even then that means your business is going into losses and there is a need to re-see. So I'm just giving you some tips of how do you find out you need to go for restructuring. So, and financial restructuring of a business will help the management to connect the situation and maintain a proper cash in the business. And it plays a very important role again. So I have seen that restructuring can also sometimes help, also helping you creating a better credit rating, means reducing your cost of capital if your credit rating improves. A friend benefit which can help you is, is working on your overall cost of capital, or you can restructure your equity side, which is majorly reserves and your shareholder funds. So I would say that this is about what I feel is some parameters and some sign which you have to keep in mind and need to work while thinking. And it's somewhere restructuring talks about a lot of common sense and what we do in our daily life. We keep restructuring a lot of things. We restructure our time. We are doing it. It just on the financial and maintaining finance, you can always hire someone, but other things you are doing it, it's just that you need to get into more detail. So, Mr. Kumar, unless
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
I have my PPT on advances changes, which has Kamat committee has suggested, but I think it totally depends on the time available.
No, I'll get back to you. We will surely find out time for a quick run of your presentation so that the advantage can be accrued. In fact, some of the points that you mentioned can be highlighted very briefly. You said that the financial planning and financial restructuring can improve the credit rating. I think that is one of the excellent takeaways for the MSMEs, because once you have restructured your financial operations and are planning properly with the other point that you said, maintaining adequate cash balances, that is liquidity. So that point alone, liquidity, maintaining adequate liquidity in future for meeting your liabilities, servicing your liabilities, can help you in avoiding any time your account becoming stress or NPA. And that itself is a great thought. And of course, the other point that I was very attracted is that restructuring is a common sense. And we keep doing restructuring every day in our financial operations, in our daily behavior, in our domestic needs. Restructuring, it has to be done according to the circumstances. The moment you, and restructuring of the time, because the morning you think something for the day, and during the day something else crops up and you restructure. So restructure,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll just quickly add one very last point, which may be relevant because of COVID, is
Please.
logistical restructuring. Somewhere we all know today the pricing of the freight charges or the delivery charges have touched skies. I hope all of you are thinking about it and you have restructured your logistics. If you are not near your supplier or the raw material sources, you're rethinking. We have seen a lot of startups have moved to Pune or different places because of the advantage of economies of scales you enjoy in a cluster. The freight and the timing involved plays a very important role in your deliverables, in your pricing, in your deliverables, and specifically in case of a manufacturing concern. So just sorry for adding this.
No, it's an excellent input, which can be further, added to the restructuring of various kinds of operations. As I was mentioning, restructuring in any and every area of your daily life, in your business life, in your business operations, in your domestic affairs, in your personal life, and in any work area, whether it is time or employees or raw material, procurement or other processes, restructuring is possible, provided you spend some time and start thinking about the existing process or existing framework. You will come to know where do you need the change and where do you need the restructuring. So we'll get back to you. Coming to Namita, in fact, she is also a very experienced chartered accountant and having worked with a lot of big companies. I was, in fact, thinking of the current issues which are, which are facing the MSME sector and troubling the MSME sector rather. And by and large, all the businesses, why only MSMEs? Even traders and even formal, informal, even big companies are also getting affected, and that is because of the stress in the accounts created due to COVID-19. Some of the stress, some of the companies or the business enterprises were facing even the stress even earlier also, but then COVID has compounded the problem and created more and more difficulties. Now the restructuring which the RBI has ordered, I mean the government of India wanted and the RBI has suggested, they have announced some of the measures. How do you think that the business community per se should react to it? First of all, should they come out voluntarily to restructure their operations according to the guidelines given by the committee? Because this committee, Kamat committee, recommendations are probably have been accepted by the RBI. And these recommendations I was looking at are not very harsh. They're very simple, like debt service coverage ratio of 1. So you see, maintaining one ratio of debt service coverage ratio should not be difficult. You should be able to at least generate that much resources in future, which are required, minimum required for repayment of your debt liability, debt, interest and principal. That is what debt service coverage ratio of 1 is. Similarly, current ratio of 1. So it is not a very big, challenge maintaining current ratio of 1. So I was looking at these parameters which the committee has given. How do you feel that the business community as such, comprising of all micro, small and medium, should respond? Should they start doing of their own or wait for the RBI? And your general views on the restructure.
As thank you for your kind words and insights on the matter. However, as Tripti ji mentioned that restructuring is a very general thing and a day-to-day thing. So something which comes from the common sense. So even though RBI has come up with this guidelines and it's getting accepted, however, any day company can look into the restructuring and basis the current states and how it's better for it. Apart from this, financial planning, regular financial planning is much needed. So while we analyze with MSME Business India Forum at FinChef, we realize that 50% of the companies are not able to sustain in the economic crisis or in the adverse situation because of lack of proper financial planning and restructuring. So I think a focused approach would be helpful for any of the sector at this point in time, wherein they can look into the existing plans, existing business units and see what is better for them and how they can take it up. So as Tripti mentioned, and again, it's important to look into the legal framework of the companies because it is more important for looking into the legal framework because it impacts the cost of the company and ability to generate funds from the market. Are we having a decentralized operation, centralized operations, and what are the logistics around the market? And then similarly, looking at the type of funds which are available in the market. Are we able to take those funds which are available in the right manner? So it's important for any organization to look into the existing structure of the company and restructure it basis their needs and the market requirement.
Right, right. No, I think these are very, the point that you made about legal framework, I think it has come out again a big takeaway for everybody because legal framework of an enterprise is very, very important as you rightly mentioned. You see, for the purpose of which impacts the cost to the company, the compliances which are required, because for a company compliances may be more, but then because of the limited liability, it gives you a lot of benefits.
And ability to generate funds is also related to it. So there are a lot of ways a person can establish an entity. It could be a sole proprietorship, partnership, then LLP, which has the benefit of both company as well as a partnership.
Right.
And one need to look into it's just not the finances. One need to look into the future of the company, goals of the company in order to decide what should be the legal framework as on day and whether we want to have some X framework today and convert it into Y framework after some time.
Right. I think that's a very new thought that has come because in the name of restructuring, people think it's only financial restructuring. So organizational restructuring also becomes very, very important. because that affects your cost, that affects your fundraising, that affects your liabilities, limited liabilities, unlimited liabilities, and that can also affect many other things like, for the purpose of banks. If it is a company where the directors are there, everything becomes so transparent because these benefits are not available to the outsiders in case of partnership form,
Yes.
as I understand, isn't it? I think you want to add something.
And also, it's just not the type of framework are we looking at. Again, if there is no particular framework in a particular situation, so it's not like this is the best one. It depends upon situation to situation. So we need to be cognizant of the fact and evaluate the situation. Get yourself evaluated. Which kind of framework suits you best in
Right.
terms of compliance cost, raising market funds, and overall cost of compliances. So which suits you? It needs to be evaluated by someone.
Yes, surely. I think that's very relevant what you said, because from the point of view of taxation, I was looking at one provision of, what is that? Composition of tax, uh, where you charge only, a fixed rate of income tax on the total turnover. I mean,
Yes.
there is a provision in the income tax law. It's called composition or something, I think.
Composition scheme, and
Composition.
again, see, these tax scheme. There are various schemes that are available under the ambit of tax. So one need to look at what scheme, what kind of a business you are in, and which kind of a scheme is more beneficial to you.
Yes.
So again, that comes with the framework where we are operating in.
So I was looking at last year the composition scheme and found, while everybody is very happy and gaga about the LLP, LLP gives a lot of advantages because it gives you the limited liability as well as the less compliances of the Companies Act. But I found composition scheme was not very favorable to the LLPs. So as you rightly mentioned, that it depends on case to case basis. If you are looking at only the taxation point of view and composition scheme, you may have to restructure it from a different from maybe LLP to a partnership or to a private limited company so that you can draw the benefit.
So it's a cost benefit analysis. One need to
Yes.
do the cost benefit analysis to determine what kind of framework is actually beneficial for you.
Right. So coming back to Tripti ji, are you there, Tripti? Hello, Tripti, are you there? Maybe she has taken a break.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you are there. So we
Yes,
can
sir,
run
I'm
through.
there.
We can run through briefly your presentation. We have some time.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Very
Yeah.
fast.
So yeah, very quickly. Can I ask?
So Damini.
Yes, sir, I'm just putting it on.
Yeah, yeah.
In the meanwhile, I can just add that maybe people who are listening. I think liquidating old and obsolete inventory is also a very important aspect.
I think so. Yes, yes.
Sometimes stock can just add on to our burden.
Yes.
So yeah, and specifically technology, changing technology can make your plant and machinery and your stock quite obsolete.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Damini, please help in running this. Can we go to the?
So Damini, please keep changing depending upon the time available. So you have to adjust the time because I think we have to finish it in 10 minutes. I
Sure,
hope
sir.
we can do it in 10 minutes, the presentation.
Yeah, I think.
So yeah, can you go on the fifth? So I've covered all these aspects, and I'll be happy to share the presentation with, in case anyone needs.
Yes. Next. So Damini,
And
next.
just quickly come on the next slide.
Applicability is important. All commercial
Yes.
banks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So quickly about these changing norms. These are applicable on all commercial banks, all primary cooperative banks, state cooperative banks, and district central cooperative banks, all India financial institution, and all non-banking financial companies.
So across the board, all financial institutions are covered.
Financial institutions are covered. So going to the next slide.
Next. Need.
Yeah. So this is majorly, the need has been defined because it's majorly to continue and to support, you know, the MSME units on account of fallout of COVID. So that's very obvious why it has come. Can we go on the next one? As we are short.
Yes. No, it has become very essential, you know. During
Yeah, very
COVID-19,
essential.
this restructuring has become so essential.
So
Otherwise,
essential.
half of your accounts are going to be stressed.
Sir, more than that, thank, I mean, everyone should be thankful that Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act has been put on hold. You know, all the, it's been completely put on hold. Nobody can be taken to IBBI for any kind of default during time. So it's a big relief in that way, if you think, because we are dealing in IBBI cases day in, day out. Somebody for a small amount is sitting in a jail. So I think it's for people to know that IBBI is no more applicable during these COVID time, and you all are like in case of any challenges. This can be on the benefit side. Conditions under which, you know, this advances can be, you know, is existing loans to MSME are classified as standard, and maybe restructured without a downgrade in asset classification. That's what has been made in this. You know, the aggregate exposure, including the non-fund-based facilities, to the borrower should not exceed 25 crore as on March 1, 2020. So it is including the non-fund-based facilities, and the borrower account, as we said, will be standard asset, has to be standard asset as on 1st March. And the restructuring is to be implemented by 31st March of 2021. The borrowing entity is GST registered on the date of implementation of the GST, and it's not applicable to MSME, which are exempted from GST. Now, asset classification of borrower classified as standard may be retained as such, whereas the accounts which may have slipped into the NPA category between 2nd March 20 and date of implementation may be upgraded. So this is a benefit which you will get because of COVID, that you may still be upgraded as standard asset instead of NPA asset. So for accounts which are restructured under these guidelines, bank has to maintain a provision of 5% over and above the provision which they are holding. Can we go to the next? I'll be happy to share this. Somebody wrote, I will be happy to share this presentation with all of you. Power to SME can circulate. How is it will get implemented? The restructuring of borrower account implemented before and on 31st December 2020 are subject to the following conditions. Documentation, I'll quickly run through this. All related documentation, including the execution of necessary agreement with lenders, creation of security charge, perfection of the securities are completed by all lenders, have to be. And secondly, capital, on the capital structure side, the new capital structure and or change in the terms or condition of the existing loan have to be reflected in the books of all lenders and borrowers. These two are, you know, are very, very important aspect. Can we go next? Okay, so provision and asset classification, as I can quickly skip this, it's a provision of 5% in addition to the provision already held. Post restructuring NPA classification of these accounts shall be as per the IRAC norms, which I don't think so unless you're a finance expert. I will give a skip to this. This is, can we go next? Disclosure, a quick disclosure on how it has to come. It has to come under notes on accounts related to MSME accounts restructure, number of accounts restructure and amount. Again, next, please. From a bank side, this is important, but not from the. So you need to have the banks and NBFC desirous of these adopting these schemes have to come up with their board approved policy and the framework for viability assessment of the stress account and regular monitoring. Kumar sir, right now, since it just have come out, there is a lot of work from the bank side and NBFC side on the approval which has to be done.
Right,
So
right.
I think this will take a little more time. It's just the first guideline. Things have come. It is just FYI right now, I would say, unless the banks and NBFC have not gone through the terms and conditions and mandatory requirements, it will take some time. I hope all of our listeners, participants are aware about it.
Yes.
Next, please. So, like I said, there are general conditions which are involved, which are NPA can be restructured, but the extent asset classification norms governing restructuring of NPA will apply, although it will be restructured. And as per general rule, bearing the one-time exception, any MSME account which is restructured must be downgraded to NPA upon the restructuring and will slip into the progressively lower assets classification and higher provisioning requirement as per extent IRAC norms. And such an account has to be considered for upgradation to standard only if it is demonstrates satisfactory performance. So, and specific period means 1 year period from the commencement of the first payment of the interest or principal, whichever is later on the credit facility with the longest period of moratorium under the terms of restructuring packages. So, and satisfactory performance means no payment shall be remain overdue for a period of, this is standard. So, no more than 30 days. If you are overdue, it will not come under satisfactory performance. This is a very important parameter. And I know this is where people will face problem, Kumar sir.
Yes, yes.
Major problem, because this is where they wanted to, take a relief on. So,
Absolutely.
And in case of cash credit or overdraft, satisfactory performance would mean the outstanding of the account shall be more than the sanction limit or drawing. So I think this is the general condition which will help in deciding for the restructuring through banks and financial institution. Can we go on next, please? So I think this was it, Kumar sir. At the moment,
yes. No, I think people who are interested can note this address and telephone numbers so that they can get in touch with Tripti and her company. And I'm coming to realize that a lot of people would need this kind of professional services of advisors, because there are too many conditions, and there are now the parameters suggested by the committee also. So all these restructuring will depend on the financial planning that the company or the business enterprise can really present before the bank. Because ultimately the skill of presenting has to be so sharp that you should be able to meet the any expectations and aspirations of the banks, and also the requirements of the restructuring, so that you become successful. So coming back to, I think it's very useful if you can share it with Power to SME and those who are interested. It will be very nice, because it's a very useful presentation and a guide for the people who are looking at this kind of restructuring from the banks. Coming back to Namita, in fact, the point that I raised, a lot of people would need this kind of professional advisory services. So how do you think that professional advisory services can play a role in mitigating the problems being faced by MSMEs, not only in restructuring, but also financial planning?
So, yes, sir. So what would I personally feel is where, the MSMEs are too much involved into their day-to-day work, and they do not get that focused time to look into the matters which impact their cash liquidity and financial plans. So how a professional can help is that, like, we at FinChef, what we do is we look into the financial health of an enterprise, which includes like balance sheet, P&L, and projections. So there are so many companies, OEM, if you would have heard of. So OEM request for all these balance sheet, P&L, and projections, so that they provide you all 100% manufacturing of their product. So therefore, it is important to take advice of a financial advisor and look into the financial health of the documents. Again, for any kind of a loan or debt, you need be it LC, bank, ODs, etc. Bankers look at certain parameters in the financial statements and projection. So a quick health check of your financial statements and revamp of those financial statements by taking adequate action would help these companies to get a better access to funds. For example, if we look at quality of assets, one being the debtor. So whether are your debtors, one needs to look, are my debtors actually getting aged? Am I able to get my payments within 60 days? If not, these debtors which pass 180 days are hampering my balance sheets. So what I need to do? Somebody has to look into it, get your bills discounted. This is one of the mechanisms. So what we do is that we look into the health of financial statements and then help clients to revamp those statements by taking accurate actions. Then again, with respect to financial planning, one can look at method of accounting to be followed. There are two methods of accounting, one being cash, another being accrual method. So it depends upon business to business, whether cash accounting would be beneficial for you or a accrual. At times, business is following a cash method, which leads to, profitability in 1 month while losses in another month. Therefore, a shift to accrual method may be a helpful factor for your business. So that needs to be looked at. Again, a good financial plan just not helps in surviving the business, but also helps in growth in the business. And just preparing the plan will not serve the purpose. One needs to uh, after preparing, monitor it on a regular basis and take corrective actions. So we help businesses in those, help them with the dashboard of providing day-to-day business reports, where the business is going, debtors, what is the current status of their debtor, what actions can be taken, what's the current ratio, and whether the debt restructuring is possible, like substitution of a low rate of finance with a high rate of finance. So a focused approach would help both financial planning and restructuring in the business, thus leading to the profitability and efficiency.
Yes. No, I think very valid points that you raised. In fact, the advisors and financial consultants would surely help the business enterprise to recalibrate their financials in such a way so that you are able to meet the requirements of the bank, not only the requirements of the bank, but also improve your rating. Because if you are able to improve your credit rating, it is going to help you from all sides. Procuring raw material at cheaper prices, procuring credit from various sources, reducing your cost of credit, and overall it builds, a kind of a trust. It brings a very easy relationship, a confident, a trustworthy relationship between the business enterprise and the other stakeholders. People would be ready to invest in your company. People would be ready to lend you money. People would be ready to give you lesser cost. I think these are the issues that you were probably mentioning.
Yes, that's what I was trying to make a point. I mean, just a simple thought and realigning the things will help you have a cheaper cost of material, cheaper interest rates, and higher profitability. And again, one important thing here is management of surplus fund. In case you are a healthy organization, it might be a possibility you have surplus fund which you are not able to utilize properly. Right. So organization needs to ensure that that surplus fund is utilized in a proper way, either by way of returns to the investors or by way of looking into the existing LCs, ODs, etc. How we can, rather than keeping that fund as idle fund.
Right. No, when I read the report of the Kamath committee, I found they had given these 5 parameters, financial ratios. Total outside liabilities to net worth, adjusted net worth, and DSCR, average DSCR, and then current ratio. I was a bit surprised that, my God, all these businesses, micro enterprises across the country, which are 90%, are they able to understand what are these ratios? Because if they don't understand, how are they going to restructure and plan? And in that case, they need the assistance.
I agree. So what are ratios? For the simpler language, I will like to tell the participants. Ratios are nothing. It's a way of reading your financials. Yeah. And therefore, I just mentioned that, the more strong your financials are, the more stronger the ratios are. which are the prime factor for any institution to lend you money. For example, one of the important ratio is debt to service coverage ratio.
Right.
What is it? It's nothing. It means that whether you have enough, when you sell something or when you generate some profit, you get enough money to service the debt. So, for an example, for $1, you are getting 20 cents as a service to service the debt. So that's one of the things. So that's where all these ratios are derived from the financials. So it's important to recalculate your financials and ensure that those are strong enough for the lenders to lend you money and for your buyers to, I mean, from where you buy or from where you sell to bring that credibility to them so that you get, orders in huge quantities like OEM I mentioned.
No, in fact, this is very much required and very useful also. The only thing from the point of view of, enterprises, business enterprises, we get the feedback and, a lot of people get withdrawn. They don't engage the consultants or the advisor because looking at, thinking with the perception that there will be very heavy fee and they may not be able to afford. So they try to engage some half-hearted kind of thing, and then they land up neither there nor there. So that is a area which needs to be, looked at, because if the fee structures are reasonable from the professional advisors and consultants, it can be very helpful.
Mr. Kumar, I just add to what the Ashrita has asked, the financial crisis, which definitely
Yes.
Ashrita is asking occurs because the client fails to pay in desired time. Obviously, that's right, Ashrita. And there are people who can help you with, there are competitive people who can help you in how to handle such situation. And we see many such situations in case of defense deliverables. I mean, when you're supplying to defense, the terms are very stringent and you are hardly getting any kind of, relaxation and all. So I think I would also suggest everyone to, now you see SIDBI has worked hard on the, factoring and the debtor securitization, even like Kumar sir said, factoring could also help in some situation, but where you've already defaulted and it is because of the circumstances, the first mode is to interact with on your own footing with the concerned person. We have seen resolving things first without any advisors, and then second is when you resolve or appoint an advisor, an organization to deal in a proper way, because your intention is to pay. Is the unforeseen circumstances, I'm assuming this is because of COVID, unforeseen, because there could be reasoning where you can explain that the payment is not something which will not come to them. It is majorly, it is being delayed or deferred. So those are the aspects you really have to work upon, and a lot of people are working on. So very common thing, you need to get in touch, one, with your concerned party, maybe interaction, if not physical, like face to face, but on virtual, sort out ways. If not, hire someone who can handle this legally.
Very right. So I think
as soon as Kumar sir, we are back and everything works, IBBI will take a, you will unnecessarily, lot of companies will fall prey to it.
absolutely.
Okay.
No, that's what I also apprehend.
Even single default by you, IBBI Act allows, the Insolvency Act can let you behind a lot of troubles, So please handle legally if those are the circumstances. Yeah.
No, we had very useful discussion, very practical inputs. Both of you are in practice and advising a lot of businesses, having worked with big companies. I'm sure that this advice would be taken up by the interested parties, and they will surely recalibrate their operations. And if need be, they will get back to you. Both of you, if you can leave your or inform your mobiles and email IDs, send it to Power to SME so that Power to SME can mail it to all the participants and other businesses also who may be interested in availing these facilities. So I think we come to the close, not close, I mean, before the question answer, session. So let me ask Sodamini. Sodamini, you have, I think, some questions.
So I have some questions,
Yeah,
and the
please.
first one is, what should be the ideal cost of finance for MSEs who do not have the kind of negotiable ability vis-a-vis a big corporate borrower?
So any of you can take up, Tripti or Namita.
I personally answered that question to the concerned person before. I was sharing with them that it totally, there are a lot of factors when you talk about these cost of capital. There are credit rating, there are a lot of factors which play a role when they're defining your rate of interest. And to get a best rate of interest, I think, Kumar sir, I remember when I was auditing NSIC, then NSIC played a very important role in getting the funding and the best possible rate for MSMEs.
Right.
So I suggested that if NSIC departments are still very strong in negotiating best rate, it will help, because I know raw material wise you guys have done a great job, and Power to SME is also doing a great job. Other than that, maybe Kumar sir, if you can answer if there are consortiums who are working on getting the best rate of interest, but
Absolutely.
dependent on a lot of factors, specifically as I highlighted before is your.
Yes.
I
Yes,
think
Namita.
can look,
Yeah.
yeah. So just to add to Dhruti, one can again look into the government. There are a lot of schemes which are there. Can be looked at in NICC portal, CP portal, and can be participated there to avail at a lower rates. And again, if just for the information of the people, they like bill discounting can be done at TREGs. Earlier, it was a fee had to be paid for that. Now it's there is no fee that needs to be paid if you get yourself registered till January. And with respect to Ashita's question, where Tripti ji mentioned a couple of points, I would like to add there is one Samadhan portal also where one can self initiate the request for whatever issues you are dealing with, and generally people have good feedback for that.
Right. Sodamini, next.
Yes, sir. The next question is, the MSME who have planned for financing according to COVID situations, but if banks don't adhere to government guidelines or RBI norms, are there any penal provisions against those banks, or other than reporting to RBI or PMO portal, how to restructure in that case?
Yeah, very interesting.
I think I can add recently you need to check on one very important platform which government has launched. It's being dealt by the if MSME Minister Nitin Gadkari sir and the recent secretary has an experience of working very closely with PMO, and they have all restructured this whole thing, an MSME champion platform from the level to different schemes which are available for MSME to a specific level queries which you have. If there are issues with PSUs, how you have to handle those has been answered and taken care very well. So please explore MSME champion, just write on Google, and please, there are no fees, and I hope all of you have registered under Udgam registration and are not relying on Udyog registration anymore because of the new definition of MSME.
Right. Namita, you want to add something? Yeah. No, in fact, let me add one or two lines. What you said is perfectly all right. Champions Portal probably is one of the finest, platform which I have seen, because it gives you reply in 24 hours. I tried, in fact, tested raised one question. We received the reply in 24 hours. And it is not mechanical. It is not auto reply. Somebody has really looked at the question.
They have deployed the whole ministry, divisional office, district offices to deal with MSME. MSME offices have been asked to specifically.
Right. So somebody will read your question, will research on that, and then respond to you in case he, probably what I understand, that is what in fact it is informed, that in case they cannot resolve your problem in 24 hours, they will give you interim reply and then will take up with the concerned department. So that is what I think resolves your problem. But let me at the end of the answer tell you that if you want any complaint against bank or branch or anything, RBI is a very, very powerful body. Don't you think that RBI is the regulatory body for all the banks? It can cancel the license. You know, recently what happened? Few banks we saw, RBI put the banks, the whole bank itself on moratorium. So the RBI has huge powers. You know, don't get disheartened. Even if you write to RBI, it is enough. And I'm sure that they will take up this. So Damini?
So the last question is the method of accounting has to be according to income tax law and not the whims and fancies of the management. Do you agree?
So I'll answer that.
Yeah,
So income tax allows you to follow method of accounting whichever you are following in the books of accounts, and it doesn't debar you from the change to method of accounting. Yes, you cannot change your method of accounting as per your whims and fancies and on a daily basis, year to year basis. There should be a ground to change, and there are case laws which support this because of the business requirements if you are changing method of accounting.
Yes, yes. So is there any other question?
No, sir. That's
So,
all the questions that we had today. And I would like to thank Tripti ji and Namita ji. And of course, you, Dr. Kumar, for such a fabulous session this afternoon. It was very enlightening. It was very invigorating. And it was a pleasure listening to you all. And of course, big thank you to our participants for sticking through. We had some great interaction from you. We had some great questions from you. I would like to tell our participants that if you look in the chat box, we have given links for Power to SME's daily newsletter, from where you can get daily news and updates on the SME sector. It's a free subscription, so please log on, subscribe, and you will find you know, everything you need to know about the SME sector in your inbox. The link to the Sahayata program that I had spoken about earlier, where if you register at Vadhwani Foundation Sahayata program, you will be given personalized you know, coaching as to how to grow your SMEs from, you know, consultants from BCG and Accenture. And we would love to know what you thought of this webinar, and we would love to know any other concerns that you have. The links for that are in the chat box, so that we can redirect our webinars as to what you would like to hear about. So I would like to thank everybody who was here today, and thank you very much, and a very good evening to all of you.
thank you, Sodamini. Thanks a lot for organizing this program. Thanks to Zumair and you both, because this program has been having a lot of traction now and is growing day by day. Excellent, in fact, discussion with the contribution of our experts, Namita and Tripti, both very experienced and very, very practical, you know, advisors. So thank you all. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
It was a pleasure, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Sir.
Tripti. Thank you very much.
Pleasure is ours, Kumar sir, always.
Bye.
Thank you.